Do you know that kind of cold that doesn't just chill you, but bites you? The kind of cold that burns your skin, freezes your breath in midair, and makes every sound feel sharper. The kind of cold where the world turns white, silent, and dangerous. Now imagine standing in that frozen silence. Nothing around you but endless snow, dark trees, and mountains that look like they never forgive mistakes. And then you hear it. A low mechanical growl. A machine waking up. A machine that was not built to survive the cold, but to dominate it. Today, you're not just watching a video. You're stepping into the frozen world of the most brutal and powerful snowmobiles ever built. Machines that pushed engineering to the edge. Machines that scared riders, broke records, and sometimes even broke their own rules. You might think snowmobiles are just winter toys. By the end of this video, you won't think that ever again. Stay with me because the last one on this list is so insane, it barely feels real. Let's start this frozen journey where modern snowmobile madness truly began. Picture the early 2010s. Horsepower wars were heating up, and manufacturers were no longer satisfied with fast. They wanted terrifying. That's when Arctic Cat unleashed something that changed everything. The Arctic Cat GR9000 Thundercat. The name alone sounded like a warning. Under its aggressive body lived a turbocharged 3-cylinder engine pushing around 200 horsepower. Let that sink in. 200 horsepower on snow. On a machine lighter than most motorcycles. When you twisted the throttle, this thing didn't just accelerate. It lunged forward like it was angry at the ground itself. Riders described the sound as a sharp turbo whistle, followed by a deep roar that echoed through frozen forests. It became known as the superbike of the snow. Fast, loud, and unforgiving. Even today, people still talk about the first time they rode one, because it didn't feel normal. It felt excessive, and that was only the beginning dot, but if you think that was wild, the next one took the same idea and turned the dial even further. Yamaha watched what Arctic Cat did and said, we can make it faster and we can make it stronger. That's how the Yamaha Sidewinder was born. On the outside it looked clean, almost elegant. But under that calm surface was a monster. Using a similar turbocharged engine setup, Yamaha tuned it for brutal torque. The result was acceleration so violent that even experienced riders were caught off guard. This snowmobile didn't just want to go fast. It wanted to dominate long trails, frozen lakes, and drag races. Riders loved it because it felt solid, stable, and brutally honest. No tricks, no forgiveness, just raw speed. The Sidewinder quickly earned a reputation as one of the fastest production snowmobiles ever made. And even years later, it still scares people who underestimate it. Now, let me ask you something. What happens when you mix nostalgia with modern turbo power? You get something dangerous and beautiful. That's exactly what happened when Ski-Doo revived one of its most legendary names. The Mach Z. When the modern Mach Z arrived, it wasn't just a tribute. It was a statement. Built with a turbocharged engine pushing close to 180 horsepower, it delivered explosive acceleration that made riders feel like time was skipping. The design mixed old-school muscle with modern aggression. Long, low, sharp, and loud. The moment it launched, it became a collector's item. People didn't just ride it, they admired it. Because everyone knew machines like this don't stay around forever. They exist to remind you what excess feels like. But power alone isn't enough when you leave the trails. That's where things start to get dangerous. Because deep snow doesn't care how fast you are. It cares how light you are. Polaris understood that better than anyone when they introduced a turbocharged two-stroke that shocked the industry. The Polaris 850 Patriot Boost. This was a snowmobile built for the impossible. Lightweight, aggressive, and insanely powerful for its size. Around 180 horsepower on a chassis so light it felt unreal. When you rode it in deep powder, it didn't sink. It climbed. It danced. It did things that looked like physics mistakes. Riders described the sound as violent. A sharp two-stroke scream mixed with the constant hiss of boost pressure. This machine redefined what deep snow riding meant. And it also proved that the most dangerous snowmobiles aren't always the biggest. Sometimes they're the lightest. And just when riders thought they had seen the limit, Thundercat answered back with something even more extreme. The M8000 Hardcore Alpha Turbo. This machine was not made for casual riders. It was made for people who wake up looking at mountains and asking, "Can I climb that?" With a turbocharged two-stroke engine pushing over 200 horsepower and a track designed for near-vertical climbs, this snowmobile felt alive. Narrow, aggressive, unstable in the best way. Riders say it feels like the machine is constantly daring you to go further, to lean harder, to climb steeper. One mistake and gravity reminds you who's in charge. This snowmobile didn't just become popular. It became a benchmark, a symbol of how far powder machines had gone. Now pause for a second. Look at where we are already. Turbochargers, 200 horsepower. Machines lighter than ever. And we're not even halfway through the list. If you're enjoying this frozen ride so far, make sure you hit that like button, because the snowmobiles coming next don't just push limits. They break them in half. Take a breath, because the next machine was born in one of the harshest places on Earth, Finland, where winter is not a season. It's a lifestyle. Lynx, a brand built for survival, created something meant to handle the wildest terrain imaginable. The Lynx Boondocker Turbo. This snowmobile wasn't flashy. It was brutal. Built for deep snow, extreme drops, and unforgiving landscapes, it focused on torque, control, and raw strength. Riders trusted it because it didn't pretend to be friendly. It was a tool, a weapon against the cold. In Europe and Canada, it became a symbol of extreme riding. A machine for those who don't ride for speed. A machine for those who don't. A machine for those who don't ride for speed, but for survival and challenge. And just when you think snowmobile evolution has been smooth and controlled, history reminds us that some machines were simply too much. Which brings us to a legend that still divides riders today. A machine from the past that earned a reputation not just for power, but for danger. But that story deserves its own moment. Because the next snowmobile on this list is remembered not for what it could do, but for what it did to the people who underestimated it. Asterisk. Now let's go back in time for a moment. Before turbochargers became common. Before electronics tried to save you. Back when power came fast, heavy, and without mercy. This is where one of the most controversial snowmobiles ever made enters the story. The Polaris Pro RMK 900. Even saying the name makes veteran riders pause. Released in the mid-2000s, this machine was supposed to be the king of deep snow. A massive two-stroke engine pushing serious horsepower for its time, wrapped in a chassis that looked ready for war. But there was a problem. Too much power. Too much weight in the wrong places. When you opened the throttle, the front end didn't lift gently. It snapped upward. In deep snow, it could trench and bury itself in seconds. On steep terrain, it punished mistakes instantly. Riders who mastered it respected it. Riders who didn't feared it. Stories spread fast. Rollovers, broken parts, near misses. Today, the Pro RMK 900 is a legend not because it was perfect, but because it was dangerous. It reminds us that power without balance can turn excitement into chaos. But engineering never stops. And while some machines scared riders in the wrong way, others pushed limits with precision. That brings us to a snowmobile built for riders who live for impossible lines. The Ski-Doo Summit X Turbo. This machine was born for the mountains. Narrow, lightweight, and brutally responsive. With a turbocharged two-stroke engine pushing around 180 horsepower, it felt like a rocket strapped to your legs. Riders describe the experience as flying low over the snow. Every movement of your body translated instantly. No delay, no hesitation. It could side-hill across slopes that looked unclimbable. It could leap over gaps that made spectators hold their breath. But here's the truth. This machine demanded respect. It didn't forgive lazy riding. It rewarded skill and punished fear. That's why it became a favorite among elite mountain riders. Not because it was safe, But because it was honest. Now, you might think modern machines are the peak of insanity. But sometimes the past hides monsters that still haunt the present. And no snowmobile represents that better than the Yamaha VMAX 4. Released in the early 1990s, this machine was pure madness. A 4-cylinder 2-stroke engine. Let that sink in. 4 cylinders screaming in unison, delivering power that most riders at the time had never experienced. The sound alone was unforgettable. A high-pitched mechanical scream that echoed across frozen lakes. When you hit the throttle, the acceleration felt violent. Not smooth, violent. The chassis struggled to keep up with the engine. Stability was optional. Control was earned. The VMAX 4 became famous and infamous at the same time. Loved by drag racers, feared by casual riders. Today it's a collector's item. But back then, it was a warning sign that engineers were racing faster than safety. And just when you think nothing could top that era, experimental machines began to appear. Machines that didn't care about rules. One of the strangest and most extreme snow creations ever built came not from a major manufacturer, but from builders who asked the simple question: what if we went further? That's how custom V8 snow machines entered the scene. These weren't production snowmobiles. They were mechanical nightmares. Massive engines, exposed frames, insane torque. One squeeze of the throttle and the rear track would dig trenches into the ice. These machines were loud, unstable, and absolutely terrifying. They weren't built for trails. They were built to prove a point. That snow could carry absurd power. And once that door opened, there was no closing it. But let's bring things back to reality for a moment. Because not every brutal snowmobile was about raw insanity. Some were about dominance through control. Enter the Lynx Radical series. Built in Finland, where winter lasts forever, these machines were designed to survive brutal terrain, reinforced suspensions, aggressive tracks, engines tuned for torque instead of top speed. When you rode one, it felt planted, heavy, confident. You didn't ride it to show off. You rode it to conquer terrain that looked impossible. Riders trusted these machines with their lives in remote areas where help didn't exist. That kind of reputation isn't built on marketing. It's built on survival. Now let me ask you something. What do you think happens when modern electronics meet extreme power? When sensors, computers, and turbo systems try to control chaos? You get snowmobiles that are faster than ever, yet still terrifying. That brings us to a new generation of machines that feel almost unreal. Snowmobiles that calculate traction, boost, and throttle hundreds of times per second. Machines that make average riders feel skilled, and skilled riders feel unstoppable. But here's the danger. Confidence grows faster than experience. And when something goes wrong at these speeds, there is no time to react. One of these modern beasts gained attention not just for speed, but for how effortlessly it delivered it. Riders reported hitting dangerous speeds without realizing it. No drama, no warning, just silence, vibration, and then fear when they glance down. This is the hidden danger of modern snowmobiles. They don't scare you right away. They lure you in. And that's the pattern you should be noticing now. Snowmobile history isn't just about horsepower numbers. It's about the relationship between rider and machine. Trust, fear, respect. Every machine on this list earned its place because it changed how people rode. Or because it reminded them that snow is not forgiving. We've now crossed the line between classic legends and modern engineering madness. And from here on, things only get more extreme. The machines left on this list aren't just powerful. They are outrageous, experimental, borderline insane. Because next, we enter the realm where snowmobiles stop being vehicles and stop becoming weapons against gravity itself. Now things start to get truly unreal. Because from this point on, we're not talking about machines made for average riders. These snowmobiles were built for people who look at cliffs, vertical slopes, and deep untouched powder and feel curiosity instead of fear. This is where snowmobiles stop behaving like vehicles and start acting like living things. One of the clearest examples of this evolution is the Ski-Doo Summit X Turbo. This machine feels less like something you ride and more like something you wear. Lightweight, narrow, and insanely responsive, it reacts instantly to your body movement. With a turbocharged two-stroke engine producing brutal power, it climbs slopes that look impossible on camera, and even worse in real life. Riders say the scariest part isn't the climb. It's realizing halfway up that turning back isn't an option. The Summit X Turbo became famous for redefining what mountain riding could look like. It didn't just raise the skill ceiling, it erased it. But Ski-Doo wasn't alone in this race. Polaris came back swinging with machines that felt like pure adrenaline. Their mountain-focused snowmobiles pushed lightweight design to the extreme. When you ride one, it feels nervous in the best possible way. Always ready to react, always on edge. The throttle response is instant, and the track bites into snow like claws. Riders describe moments where the machine feels like it wants to climb on its own. Like gravity is just a suggestion, these snowmobiles didn't just perform well in tests. They dominated real mountains. Backcountry riders trusted them to take on lines that would have been unthinkable just a few years earlier. Now here's something most people don't realize. As snowmobiles became lighter and more powerful, crashes didn't decrease. They became more violent. When something goes wrong at these speeds, the machine doesn't gently slide away, it launches. That's why some of these snowmobiles earned a reputation, not just for performance, but for fear. Fear mixed with respect. Riders talk about moments when the machine did exactly what they asked, but faster than expected. And in deep snow, speed is deceptive. Everything looks slow. Until it isn't. This is where experimental builds start to blur the line between snowmobile and science experiment. Custom turbo kits, modified engines, reinforced frames, riders chasing more boost, more power, more insanity. Some of these machines never leave private land or closed events because they're simply too dangerous for public trails. But their influence spreads. Ideas born in garages eventually make their way into production machines. And that's how snowmobile evolution really happens. At the edge. Then there are the machines built not for riders but for spectacle. Snowmobiles created to shock crowds and dominate shows. Engines far too big, power numbers that make no sense. These machines aren't meant to be practical. They're meant to make a statement. When one of these fires up, the sound alone silences everything else. Deep, thunderous, and unnatural. The snow shakes. The air vibrates, and everyone watching understands one thing. This is not normal. One of the wildest examples of this philosophy is the rise of hybrid snow machines, snowmobiles mixed with snow bikes. Tracked monsters with motorcycle DNA. These machines are unpredictable, raw, and brutally powerful. Some use engines originally meant for cars. Others use forced induction setups that push components to their breaking point. Riding one isn't about comfort or endurance. It's about surviving the experience. Riders often say the hardest part isn't controlling the machine. It's controlling themselves. And now we arrive at a moment in this story where common sense completely leaves the room. Because the next machine represents a question no one needed to ask. What happens if you put a massive engine, the kind usually found in muscle cars, onto a snow-going chassis? The answer is chaos. Absolute chaos. These machines look like something from a dystopian movie. Exposed metal frames, oversized tracks, minimal body panels. No attempt to hide what they are. When they move, they don't glide over snow. They tear it apart. Riders who've experienced these machines describe the feeling as overwhelming. The throttle feels heavy. The response is instant, and the power never seems to end. You don't ride it for long, you endure it. Every second feels like a test of grip, of balance, of courage. These machines aren't about distance, they're about moments. Moments where the world narrows down to sound, vibration, and survival. But here's the twist. Despite all this insanity, these machines matter. They matter because they show how far humans are willing to go just to see what's possible. Snowmobiles aren't just tools for winter travel anymore. They're expressions of engineering ego, of curiosity, of rebellion against limits. Every outrageous build pushes the entire industry forward, even if only a few ideas survive. Now, ask yourself this. After everything you've heard so far, what could possibly be left? What kind of snowmobile could sit at the top of this list? Faster machines exist. Lighter machines exist, but only one machine breaks the final boundary. The boundary between snowmobile and monster. Because the number one spot doesn't belong to a production model. It belongs to something else entirely. Something so extreme, so absurd, that it barely qualifies as a snowmobile at all. Take a deep breath, because what you're about to hear doesn't sound like engineering, it sounds like madness. The final machine on this list is not something you'll ever see on a dealership floor. It wasn't designed to be practical, comfortable, or safe. It was designed to prove a point, to show what happens when logic steps aside and power takes control. This is the V8-powered tracked snow monster, a machine that exists somewhere between a snowmobile, a snow bike, and a mechanical nightmare. Built with a massive V8 engine, supercharged in some cases, producing power numbers that have no business touching snow. We're talking hundreds of horsepower, more than many sports cars. Mounted on a chassis with skis in the front and a reinforced track system in the rear, this machine doesn't glide, it attacks. When this monster fires up, the sound doesn't scream, it roars. A deep, thunderous growl that echoes across mountains and frozen valleys. The snow beneath it vibrates. The air feels heavy. Riders don't describe riding it. They describe surviving it. Every touch of the throttle sends a shock through your body. The rear track digs violently into the snow, throwing ice and powder into the air like an explosion. Control is minimal. Respect is mandatory. This machine isn't about speed records or trail rides. It's about dominance. About taking something fragile like snow and crushing it under brute force. And here's the most important part. Machines like this aren't built to sell. They're built to inspire fear and fascination. They remind us that snowmobiles aren't limited by tradition, only by imagination and courage. When people see this machine climb slopes that shouldn't be possible, something changes. The idea of what snow can support shifts forever. And even though this machine will never be mass-produced, its existence influences everything that comes after it. Now step back and look at the entire journey you just took. From early trail-dominating legends to turbocharged monsters. From lightweight mountain climbers to unstable classics that terrified their own riders. Every machine on this list represents a moment when engineers, riders, and builders decided that normal wasn't enough. That winter wasn't something to survive, but something to conquer. These snowmobiles aren't just vehicles. They're expressions of human ambition, of curiosity, of rebellion against cold, gravity, and fear. Some were loved, some were hated, some were outright dangerous, but all of them earned their place in history by pushing the frozen world forward. And here's the surprising truth. The most brutal snowmobiles aren't always the fastest or the most powerful. They're the ones that change how you feel when you ride. The ones that make your hands shake when you shut them off. The ones that leave you silent for a moment, staring at the snow, realizing how close you just came to the edge.